Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour. Very excited this week to be joined by an up-and-coming artist that I think you are going to get to know over the next couple of years because I think she's on to great things. Her name is Julia Gentil, but you might know her as her band and stage name, Vilivant. She will be our guest today on the Rockman Power Hour. We're very excited to talk to her. But before we go too far, let us bring in our co-host, Ryan Stick. Ryan, how are you, my friend? Are you doing well?
Dude, I'm doing awesome, man. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that we got some new blood on the show. You know, like sometimes we talk to the legends, but at the same time, I like talking to future legends and stuff. Yep. And you know, if in my life, if nobody when I was up and coming like gave a shot to a new band, I don't know where I would be. And this band's really got their stuff together. Okay, like I was looking at the music videos and the album. Everything is professional as hell. You know, haven't witnessed any of their growing pains, but I can say that they're at a level of professionalism that I wish I had obtained at the ages that they are.
I get really, really excited when we get to talk to somebody that is this up and coming, that is on the, you know, that is right there at the beginning. It's kind of like when we talk to Derek Day from Classless Act. Like that band is about to blow up. I'm telling you right now. From what I'm hearing, they're writing a next record, but that band will be huge. And they've made a name for themselves opening up for Motley Crue and Def Leppard. And I feel that people are going to go back and go, oh yeah, Rockman Power Hour had Derek on really, really early. So I feel the same way about Julia. I think that she's very, very talented. And I think Vilivant is a great, great band that is going to knock people off their socks. As you know, I love female fronted bands. I think the world of rock needs more female fronted bands because there's just so many incredible musicians that have something to say, and it harkens back to me like the '90s. Like it was just a great decade for female fronted rockers that kind of came into their own after the '80s that were just drenched in fucking cliches and you know dudes just
and coke.
Dudes, coke,
so
and the
much
whole,
coke, yeah.
So yeah, so the '90s, there was just a great. It was just a great decade for alternative music and for some great female fronted alternative music artists like Alanis Morissette, Garbage, you know, Shirley Manson from Garbage. There's just a lot of really, really incredible artists to come out of
No doubt. Gwen Stefani represent.
Gwen Stefani. Yeah. I mean, it was just a great decade for almost this I don't want to say female empowerment because it sounds kind of cheesy, but it was just a great decade for a lot of female artists to just come forward and be there and have their voice heard. And when I hear an artist like Julia from Vilivant, I just get that same vibe. Of course, she's obviously heavily influenced by Evanescence as well. You can hear that too, but it's a good record. I think she's got a promising future, and I'm really excited to have her on the podcast. So check it out, our chat with Vilivant. All right, really, really happy to have with me on the Rockman Power Hour an artist who I've kind of discovered over the last little while, and I love the way I discovered you, and we're going to get into that. But first off, thank you, Vilivant, for being here with us today. I see, judging by your background and your T-shirt, you're a Star Wars fan.
Oh, you know what? My dad is a huge Star Wars fan, and he kind of got me into the whole Star Wars universe.
That's parenting done right. I did the same things to my kids. My kids are Star Wars superhero fans because of all my nerdy obsession. So
I see behind you, you have like a bunch of cool things behind you.
I have all kinds of crap in here. Yeah. This is where they just put me to keep me quiet. But so the first I heard of you and I discovered you was I work at a radio station in Montreal, and you sent a package. Someone sent a package to me. And it had some pics and it had a sticker and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, and I think it even had some chocolate.
Yeah, it was a Christmas package that I sent to you guys.
Yeah. And I remember getting that and I was like, okay, this is a nice touch. But it made me go and listen to the music. And then lo and behold, about a month and a bit later, our music director added you as a feature on my show, the Big Shiny New Song of the Week. So I like when I see an artist take the time to do the little things. And it's amazing how some people don't even think of that anymore. So first off, I wanted to ask you, where do you get your work ethic from? Because you obviously clearly have work ethic. I can see by the way you're presenting yourself, by the way you're working hard, by the way you're promoting. Like, did you learn that? Was it from your parents? Was there a mentor that you had that gave you that?
Not necessarily, but I gotta say my dad is a huge, not workaholic, but he's, no, not a workaholic at all, but he's been so, just steady with, trying to get things done, like very like he's not lazy. He's always working on different kinds of projects. So I guess I kind of get that from him.
And is your dad a musician as well?
He's not. He's a salesman. So
Okay.
he goes on and but he's a really, really great guy, like super, super professional and just always working hard.
And it's great that you have a great, like, so many people, heading into their teens, into their early adulthood can be, they'll have strained relationships with their parents. They'll be like, yeah, they suck. But it's nice to see. And I kind of feel like I'm seeing this more and more. Maybe it's just because I have that with my kids, but we're not the cringe parents anymore. And it seems like a lot of people are having these relationships with their parents where they actually enjoy being around them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can say the same thing. I enjoy it. They're also huge supporters too, so that helps.
Yeah. So when did you discover that you liked music? I mean, what was it about? Was it seeing someone perform? Like, who was the person that you saw perform, or what was the music that you heard that made you say, like, I want to do this?
Well, I started music when I was 3, like a very young age. I started the piano, did like Royal Conservatory and all the classical stuff.
Oh, so you did the real stuff.
Yeah, like I that was my first kind of introduction to music. Piano was my first instrument. And then years and years ago, I started developing my voice because I love to sing. So I took a bunch of different vocal lessons with different teachers, still take vocal lessons because you always can improve, obviously.
Right.
And I picked up the guitar a couple of years ago, started playing rhythm in my band. And I guess to say like rock music, my first, I guess, introduction to rock music was when I heard Heart the first time and Barracuda, that song specifically. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And at the time, like there wasn't a lot of female fronted bands. There was obviously in the 80s and a little bit here and there, but it wasn't a big thing. It was mostly like, male fronted bands, which is totally fine. But I was like, oh, like we should hear more of that. So Heart, and then also I heard Hailstorm the first time, and I was like, that was like my first introduction to like female, like a really raw and like just kind of screaming kind of vocals from a female artist. And I was like, wow. So that really inspired me as well. And just ever since then, I decided to really experiment with the rock genre, and it just grabbed me. I love that kind of music.
Yeah, and you're good at it. I got to tell you, I was listening to the EP that came out on March 10th, and would you call it an EP? I mean, it's kind of in that weird spot because it's 8 tracks, so I don't know if it's an EP.
I call it an LP, like a full length.
So yeah, that's what I would call it too. It's like it is, but nowadays if it's under 10, you're like,
I know, I get that.
but it's really solid. And what grabbed me right away was, you mentioned all those artists, but I remember one of my favorite decades of music is the 90s, because I felt that in the 90s there weren't as many labels. We came out of a decade of the 80s where things seemed to be really, they seemed to be in these little packages. Everything seemed to be compartmentalized. Like you had this style, you had that style. But what was nice about the 90s that the doors kind of blew open and everything was game. And there were so many strong female artists in the 90s, from Liz Phair, from, bands like Veruca Salt, artists like, like Fiona Apple, like Tori Amos, like Alanis Morissette, of course, so Elastica, like there were just so many great, Republica, like I could just go on and on. So it's nice to see somebody, and when you say a couple of the influences, I can see it. But then when I heard your stuff, I was like, immediately I thought of Evanescence. And that's a massive, a massive compliment.
Yeah.
Because Amy's a beast. So, but you're definitely on the right track. I got to tell you. And for someone who's starting out, your songwriting is really mature.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a bit about what goes into that? I mean, and I know, like, you talk about your first loves of music, but when did you really, really start writing this genre of music?
I started writing when I was 12, not necessarily rock music. I was just writing whatever came to mind, whatever it turned out to be. And obviously looking back at my old songs when I was 12, they're not good, obviously. We have the lyrical content, like, what am I talking about at age 12?
How old are you now?
I'm 22.
Okay. All right. So 10 years. I mean, so when you, what was Vilivant age 12 like?
I don't even know what I was talking about. Like, oh, I didn't get the food I wanted today. Like just stupid things that a 12-year-old would complain about. But when it comes to writing songs now, usually I start with lyrics or like a vocal melody. And depending on where I am at the time, I like to take my phone and do like a voice memo to make sure I don't forget it. If it's something that I feel, oh, I can actually make a song out of this kind of thing. And then I take it, I go home, fool around the piano or guitar or whatever, create like an instrumental. And then my guitar player, Matt Hatch, we kind of collaborate a lot of the time. I send him rough ideas and I'm like, what do you think of this? And he either loves it or hates it. 95% of the time, we're on the same page, which is great. And then he kind of rolls with it and he sends me back like a full-on instrumental. And he's like, oh, what do you think of this? And I'm like, this is exactly what I had in mind. So I love working with people like that and collaborating with people like mine, obviously. But usually I start with lyrics or an instrumental, depending on obviously the song.
Do you get excited when someone like Matt will send you a complete idea and it just fuels whatever little voice note you sent him?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do.
In terms of touring and playing, I mean, I know you've been playing music for a long time, and I imagine you're a multi-instrumentalist, right?
Yeah, I play piano, guitar. I play some bass a little bit if I'm like recording stuff. And then obviously I sing.
You sing. Have you had a lot of live experience?
Yeah. So even before Vilivant, the band, I was in a cover band for 4 years. Okay. And I was underage and I played so many bars. And nobody cared about my age because they're like, okay, you're great. Let's just have you play. And we played till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I did that. I was on rotation for like those 4 years. And of course, COVID came and everything stopped. And then that's when I was like, you know what? I want to focus on my own stuff now. But before Vilivant, I was performing probably like 60 shows a year just as a cover band. So I have a lot of a live show experience.
And that's the thing, right? When you have done covers, I've done covers in the past. I remember doing covers in the mid 90s to pay for recordings and having to do them every weekend for about 4 or 5 months to pay for, studio time. And it's a great experience because you really, really aren't playing to people that want to necessarily see you. You're a background.
Yes.
And when you can win those people over, that says a lot because it's just going to lead to, obviously stage experience. And then when you actually play your own stuff, you have people that are coming to see you. It makes your job that much easier. But can you tell me some of the craziest nights playing cover music, like when you had to win a crowd over? Are there any standout moments where you had that, maybe that drunk heckler or that annoying person or that person that just kept telling you to play,
AC/DC.
Yeah, exactly.
AC/DC. And what's funny too? Like I'm not a huge fan of AC/DC, but I understand why they're a huge impact, obviously.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But yeah, so I'm going to tell you a funny story that kind of sounds bad. But I was playing at this crappy little bar in Bolton, and there was this girl or guy, or I think it was a girl, and it was like after, I think we were playing Limelight by Rush or something.
Right.
And after that song, I heard like a like in the audience, and I was like, the heck? And without me even like thinking about what I was supposed to say, it just came out of my mouth, and I'm like, I didn't know they let dogs in here. And so everybody went silent. I'm like, oh shoot, I just called this woman a bitch. And then apparently she left and she gave me the finger, and I'm like, okay, that's nice. But other than that, I had like, basic drunk guys come up to me, and one of them hugged me without my consent and spilled his beer down my shirt. Another story.
Yeah.
But overall, I've had like a great fun experience doing that. Like I won a lot of people over, and people who saw me when I was with that band now see me as Vilivant, and they're still huge fans of like me and the music that I created. So yeah, it was a great experience to say the least.
So you have some tour dates that are coming up. What does the next few months look like for the band and for you?
So starting March 25th, I'll be playing in Windsor at the Meteor with Windsor bands American Airport Sushi and the Born Riot. And then from there, I'll be playing Toronto. And my Toronto show is April 14th. It's actually my album release show, my official album release show.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like a huge night for me. I'm excited about that. And then the April 15th, I'll be coming your way to Montreal.
Yeah.
I'll be stopping by your studio, doing a little acoustic performance of Running on Empty. And then I'll be playing the Piranha Bar with Astral Gates and Late Night Trouble. And then I'll be like just going around different cities after that, Ottawa, Kingston, Waterloo, those areas.
And are you like, obviously you're always open to tour. I mean, you want to do this as much as you can, right?
Of course.
I think it was one of the reasons why I was really excited to talk to you early, because I feel that there's a lot of talent here. I feel that there's a lot of promise. And I'm always excited to talk to people when they're starting out, because it's interesting to talk to someone at the beginning and then to talk to them maybe 4 years later when they've gone and they've toured everywhere. They've had a successful record. They're on the second album. So it's, to me, it's fun to get people from, you know, like right from the jump, as they say.
Of course.
Is there anything about touring that you're apprehensive of? Like, is there any, like, certain things you think you might miss? Or there's certain things that you're used to that you're kind of apprehensive about you might not be able to do when you're on the road, or is it all just a big adventure at this point?
Big adventure, but I think the thing that I'm most scared about is like not liking it.
Yeah.
You know, liking being on the road or whatever. I think I would, because I do have experience performing a lot, but I haven't had the experience actually like going to a van and like touring different cities, though it's not like a whole like run of dates. It's just like sporadic dates.
Sure. But it's going to lead to a run of dates.
Exactly. So it's kind of getting me prepared for future dates like that. But I guess, yeah, the thing I'm most scared of is potentially not liking it, but I think I'll probably like it.
And there's got to be a certain amount of excitement when you prepared these songs that you've been working on for probably a couple of years at this point.
Oh, yeah, it's been 3 years in the making this album.
Right. So you're probably itching just to play them live too, right?
Yeah.
Have there been people that have been heard a lot of this stuff live? Like, I know you're doing your album launch, but have you played a lot of shows as this project?
Yeah. So before I released the album, I played, I think probably, trying to think, 8 shows last year. Just sporadic. I opened for Lee Aaron at the Alma Combo, which was fun. And I played some of the fans that I actually made a lot of fans at that show. A lot of people went there to see Lee Aaron, of course, but they saw me and they're like, oh my God, like, you're amazing. And so they've been following me ever since. And they heard most of the songs are on the album live, because I did kind of hint at a couple different things before they were released, obviously, in my past shows. But there definitely is a lot of new stuff that I haven't experimented with live. And I'll be throwing in a cover in my sets this time as well.
Okay.
By a classic band, and I'm excited to play it. But yeah, my show will consist of the whole album, start to finish, a couple of my old songs that I released years ago, and the cover. When
you open up for someone like Lee Aaron, do you get nervous? Is it more excitement? And did she acknowledge you?
Okay, so sometimes I still get nervous. I still have that stage fright type of thing going on. Every artist, I mean, like, if you're not nervous, I feel like you don't care at that point. Like,
100%.
You know, you're just trying to like do your best. And I was nervous, but also very like, you know, excited. And right when I hit the stage, like the adrenaline just kicked in, right? And I'm just like not nervous anymore, and just, you know, did my all. And Lee Aaron was great. Like, I went to go see her after her show in the green room, and she just hugged me and said I did a great job, and she loved my stuff. So that meant a lot.
I mean, Lee Aaron was such an important figure in female metal and female rock, you know, not just in Canada, worldwide. I mean, she was doing that before a lot of people were. She's an influence that a lot of women will cite as, you know, as one of the first. She was like out there, you know, she was out there with the machete, like hacking the trail for a lot of people. So it's cool. It's cool to see that you get to open up for her early on like that. Yeah, it was a great opportunity. And Ed Souza, who organized the whole event, knew me because he knew my mom, because she went to he does a lot of 80s bands. He promotes a lot of 80s bands. Yeah. And my mom is a huge concert goer. She loves music. And so she knows him because of that. And then he knows me because of that. So she asked him one time, hey, like, I see Lee Aaron's playing. Do you mind Julia open up for Lee Aaron? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So I'm incredibly grateful for that opportunity. And I don't know if you heard, but I'm also opening for Finger 11 at this year's Kempen Fest, which is going to be very I saw
exciting.
That. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then some more crazy festivals are coming up that haven't been announced too. So, well, that's it. That's what I was alluding to, is that, you know, all these things that you're going to do are just going to lead to more. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm usually really good at calling it, and I'm calling that you're going to do great. Thank you.
I got that feeling. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on with you today. And I know that we're going to have a lot more to talk about the next time we get on here, because you're just going to have all that. We're going to find out, if you like touring.
Yeah.
And we're going to get more stories of people trying to, maybe trying to take you out on stage with catcalls, and you're going to call them bitches again.
A bitch.
But really, really, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. Continued success. Looking forward to seeing you here in Montreal. And really, the music's great. You're onto something, and I think the songs speak for themselves. And again, the idea of the personal touch, never give that up, because it goes a long way. It worked on me. It got my ears, it got my attention. So I think it's really smart. So keep following that guidance and keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing something right.
Thank you. It means so much. Thank you for your time too, for doing this.
Yeah, you were mentioning Evanescence, like it has that vibe, but I'm also going to say like Paramore, because they got that 4/4 intensity. No, man, it was really cool just seeing how exciting the next chapter of her career is going to be and stuff. And she's opening for like really cool people. I'm like, man, she's 22. Nothing really cool to me happened music wise like that until it was maybe like 26, 27, 28. So
same. Yeah. She's definitely off to the finals. Off to the races. I just think she's an artist, Ryan, that we need to definitely give a shout out to on this podcast. And I'm glad that we had her on, because I believe that she's going to go on to do some great things. The new record is really, really good. I encourage people to check out the new album. And it's an EP, but there's some big things coming, down the pipeline for her, and I'm looking forward to not only seeing her live, because she's going to be playing in Montreal Saturday night. Actually, she's going to be playing at Piranha Bar with some other great bands like Astral Gates and Late Night Trouble. So definitely go check them out. And if you're hearing this past that, look on her website. It's thisisvilivant.com, and that's VILIVANT, and just keep yourself up to date on what's going on with her, because there's a lot of great things coming, and I think she's a great artist you need to look out for.
I think it's really cool, man, that she's got that, that relationship with her dad, that positive relationship. Because I keep thinking about We're Not Gonna Take It, where at the beginning the guy's dad is pretty much screaming him down, Full Metal Jacket style.
What do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, and I think there's way less of a generation gap than there used to be when it comes to parents and kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the 1950s, when their kids started listening to rock and roll, they thought their kids were abducted by aliens.
Yeah, no, I know.
And then when you think of the parents that were kind of like, growing up in the late 40s and 50s, and all of a sudden the hippie era, like what kind of generation gap was that? And then you got the people who liked the Beatles and were cool with that, but then their kids are in the 80s, like with a flock of seagulls' hair and, wearing pastels and all this other stuff. So it just seems like it's finally kind of like everything's been done. So now nothing really shocks the parents anymore.
Yeah. And I think the gaps kind of been bridged, there's, like my relationship with my daughter turns me on to new music all the time. And I love it. Yeah. I love it. Like she'll tell me about a new band. She loves Phoebe Bridgers, and there's this new band that she's a part of called Boy Genius. I've been listening to that record nonstop. That's my daughter, who suggested it to me. So it's nice when you have that kind of relationship. And it seems like she has that with her dad. And when we started the interview, she had some Star Wars toys. I'm like, oh, you're into Star Wars? She goes, oh, that's all my dad's. And I was like, oh God, that's so cool. So it's nice to see. I agree with you though. It's nice to see a nice relationship between father and daughter, and where you can share with that love of music. And I've seen that many times, when I remember when we first met the girls in Kitty, their dad was a huge fan of music and a fan of theirs. Yeah. So they were able to, kind of share in that passion. He was able to manage them. And I think it's nice when you can share that with your kids. It's a nice thing as opposed to being so away from it, so outside and separated from it that you don't understand it, So yeah, it's nice to see that.
My mom and dad were straight, like they were the biggest supporters.
Oh,
and
your mom's your biggest fan. Come on.
Despite the fact I was like trying to be cool and write lyrics about how hard my life actually wasn't. Like I was trying to sound cool because we're like punk, and you're 50 and you're just trying to find yourself. You're looking around and you're just like, where do I exist in this world? Oh, all music I like are from tormented people. So therefore, do I have to be tormented to make my own art? And if I was to write lyrics at, accurately to my life situation. It would have been like, my mom loves me. My dad drives me to band practice. They bought me an amp last minute.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's not very
you know,
interesting.
not all art has to be born out of pain. You know, not, some of it can just be born out of just inspiration
Boredom. Yeah.
or boredom or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, it's funny. It's funny when you get these things like people say, "Oh, this person's from that background." This, and you know, like for example, I just saw something like Kid Rock. People are saying how he grew up on a trailer trash. It's this whole image that he has, like, you know, he's from the trailer parks and this and that, and then you see he grew up in this like middle class, like to upper class neighborhood in this big house. So sometimes people just create this image, or sometimes they like, you know, like I like with punks, like a lot of kids just wanted to be part of that punk movement. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be born, you know, sometimes you're just playing a role. Sometimes you're just, and it's, you know, musicians can be actors. It can be all kinds of things wrapped into one. It could be anything, you know. So yes, it's nice to see a relationship between her and her dad, and that he's involved with her, you know, her musical growth and all that stuff. So yeah, it's very, very cool to see. And I'm all for parents that support their kids, as I do with mine. Like, I'm their biggest supporters. You know, whatever they do, anything, I want to be their front row cheering them on, instead of like telling, like, why would you deny someone to do something that they want to do? You know, like I've always said the same thing to my kids: 2 rules. Be happy and don't hurt anyone. If you can do both of those things, then you're good. Do anything you want. Just be happy and don't hurt anyone.
Though I'm not a dad, one of the most profound things I ever saw was in this movie called Jawbreaker. And there was this thing where, like, you know, Rose McGowan's top dog, and there's these 2 other friends, and the dad was saying something to one of the friends, and the fact that I can't remember any of these characters' names says a lot about what I'm about to say. But the dad was like, I was watching a program and they asked the question, is your a child a leader or a follower? And I was like, oh my goodness, my daughter's a follower. And meanwhile, the daughter's not listening to anything, saying like, whatever, dad. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, that's the one thing I think I would want my kid to be, besides, like, you know, not a piece of crap. But if I had a kid, I would be like, as long as you're not the lackey to the jackass.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse. Like, yeah, you're the jackass, fine. Jackasses can have a third act change and change their life and change their spots. Like, I believe in growth.
Yeah.
But when you're a lackey, that is, even to the jackass, that's even worse. When you're a mouth breathing idiot just going along with whatever the other person says with no personality at all, that's way more embarrassing to me.
Well, good point. So thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Rockman Power Hour. And we want to thank our guest, Julia Vilivant, of course. Thanks to our sponsor, Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Definitely check them out at heartbeathotsauce.com. Incredible small batch hot sauce fermenters from Thunder Bay, Ontario. I'm holding up the pineapple habanero if you are watching us. And if you're listening, well, just listen to the sweet sounds of Heartbeat Hot Sauce as it engulfs your meal. Heartbeathotsauce.com. Use our promo code Rockman20 and you'll get 20% off your entire order. Thank you to our friends over at Studio House Designs for making us look fresh. And thank you to AKG and Harman Audio for providing us with these great microphones and headphones to bring a beautiful sound to your ears. And thanks to my co-host, Ryan Stick. Thank you to our producer, Julia Kajerski. And again, subscribe, hit the subscription bell, and that way you will never miss an episode of the Rockman Power Hour. And let us know in the comments if there's anyone you'd like us to chat with, or if any criticisms, comments, anything you got, we can take it. We're big boys, and we're not afraid of you. We'll see you next time on the Rockman Power Hour.